It's JH.
Yeah, all right, we're good.
And I get
Org.
That's it.
That's why she didn't put that.
I don't know. They want to. I would come to use them. I told you this is not. It's my.
Yeah, they all slide over.
You guys care if we open these?
Yes.
All right, and it's 5:06, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Lisa Gonzalez present, Jessica Lynch present, Lori Lindsay present, Kelly Hunter present, Pam Clark present, Millie Tucker present. And you're so far away. I know. You're cool. All right, Jessica's gonna read our mission and vision.
Our mission, Discovery Charter School will foster in its students the passion and curiosity necessary for lifelong learning. Students will develop the ability to think critically, communicate effectively, and excel academically. Through an integrated place-based curriculum, our students will become stewards of their environment and community. And our vision, an inclusive community that nurtures how to think, not what to think, one child at a time.
My only announcement is we have Ball State with us today. They're gonna do a presentation from when they came and observed in January, February,
November.
November. It's been a minute. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit. The financial report.
Okay. Hello to everyone. I'm going to get Kiki on the phone and give the financials again. Mhm. Hopefully. Okay, you're on. Financial report for February, please. Yeah, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on speaker. February financial report, please.
Okay, I'll start with the balance sheet. Banking wise, operating account is up. We received the Charter Innovation Grant. It's about almost $370,000. The Chase board account, that's where a lot of the Dow activity goes. So we're going to start seeing movement in that account. No capital expenditures this period. Nothing really out of the norm. That's really all I got there. That's the only notable thing there. We've received a few standard grants and moved in and out of grants receivable, but nothing large. Month to date, profit and loss. We have in the local revenue accounts a few things. There's student fees. They're a little lower in the month, but so are field trip expenditures. Overall for the year, we're at a positive. So I know we'd like to keep track of that now, so we're good there. PAC reimbursed Discovery for some Chromebooks. So there's also a deposit. It's almost about $7,000 in there. Basic grant revenue has not gone down, and we did have an adjustment to our SPED reimbursement. So overall, that's almost $43,000 higher than budgeted in this month. Charter facilities grant is still being budgeted, but we did receive the whole thing. So overall, income-wise, positive $30,000 for the month. Expenses, just to highlight a couple of the accounts that look off from the budget. Elementary, we're lower in hourlies and non-certifieds, and we have been consistently lower in employee insurance, and that's just elections. And then we are a little bit over on subs. So we do have some full-time substitutes and maternity substitutes, so that's throwing it in the opposite direction. But overall, we're under budget. Business marketing, our marketing expenses are still lower than projected. Special education and all those related expenses are higher, and that just has to do with the population. So we have an increase in hourlies. We have an increase in psych testing, which is LEAP solutions, increase in occupational therapy. Technology services, this is all Levco, and it's down, so that's nice. It's usually the opposite, but this year it's been holding steady there. School admin, not really anything there, just lower on like standard expenses, supplies, etc. Curricular, we're starting to see the decrease in expenses. That was just more towards the beginning of the year. And then maintenance director, that's where the hourlies were budgeted, and we're not using those anymore. So we are going to be consistently under budget there. Grounds maintenance, we're over for the months, and that's snow. Insurance is a little higher, but that includes the second installment of Guide 1 business insurance. Okay, year-to-date wise, local revenue, that's mostly field trips again, and it just kind of corresponds with field trips. State revenue, we continue to see a positive direction of the basic grant and the SPED, which offsets some of those increased SPED expenditures. And then we also have all of the charter facilities grant in there now because it is fully expended. Federal revenue, we've been using the SPED Part B and the Title I. SPED Part B is probably only going to get us through a couple more months, so then we'll start to see that even out. Expense-wise, elementary, we're lower than budget by $88,000. $58,000 of that is insurance, just to see how the insurance electives affected that account. Middle school, we're a little high, and that was the introduction of electives. STEM, we're lower in insurance electives and supplies because that's largely covered by grants. Business and marketing, this is where the Dow expenditures are going to go. So we're under budget right now, but we will start to see some activity there. And I've included a supplemental report that I'll go through in a minute. High ability, we've received the full $17,000 for fiscal year 25, and we just got the reallocation. So we'll see if some more expenditures there, maybe just about $5,000 throughout the rest of the year, though. Special education, same thing, hourlies, insurance, just the increase in the population. Special programs, that's largely just the RoboKind. OT, Molly Shannon, Tech Levco. Anything else notable here? The curricular materials, you'll see overall, we're over budget by $31,000. So that's why we'll start to kind of balance that throughout the rest of the year. And then just as a reminder, we did receive the $85,000 reimbursement from the state. Maintenance, hourlies, and then grounds maintenance, that was the charter facilities grant. Most of that came into play with that. That's all. So for year to date, over budget by 380, which is great. And again, we did receive the full $335,000 for charter facilities grant that was allocated to this year. And then the basic grant and SPED accounts for about $90,000 of an overage there. I did include, and I'll continue to include this for the next few months. This is the board fund report. With Dow coming up in April, I thought it would be helpful to kind of see a breakdown of where we're at. There's not much activity yet through February at least, but overall it's just breaking even. It's about 743. So we'll see how that progresses through the end there. Any questions on the financials?
When you said that the Dow was going to be in the business and marketing,
Yes.
is that, I thought it was all going to be going through the separate.
It is. So the two accounts that you're going to see the activity in, there's the bank account, the Chase Board Fund, and then expenses wise, you're going to see it in that business marketing expense account. Income wise, it's going to go into local revenue. So that's kind of why I included this account, because you can't tell the activity for income and expenses just by looking at the summarized reports. So you would only see the net in the bank. So this supplemental board fund report will show you exactly how much income, exactly how much expenses hit that bank account. Does that answer that?
Yes, I think so.
Ellen, I can't hear if there was an answer there.
Yeah, that was satisfactory. Thank you. I think we're done. Payables, anything else, Kiki?
No, I don't have anything financials
Yeah.
wise.
Okay. Okay, that'll be it. Thanks. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Okay, so I hit the highlights on that. That was some granular detail. That's hard to follow without a financial statement. But again, another good month, February. Our 8th month of this fiscal year, a surplus of $38,000. And year to date, for those 8 months ended then, we have surplus of over $400,000. Some of that, again, due to the charter facilities grant, which was all received before it was budgeted. So anyway, still another very good month. And, we're doing this at what, an ADM of 534. So things are looking pretty good. If we can get up to 550s or so, we'd
We're
be.
closer now than we were a month ago.
What was there a count recently? No? There's a count. What was the count?
There was 433.
What?
Or 5, yeah.
543? Oh, that's good.
No, 534.
534. All right, so that was about the same. About the same. Okay, so we didn't gain or lose anything in February. Okay, good. Anyway, yeah, that's it. We're going great. 4 more months left in the fiscal year. That's it. We have terrific news on the bond refinancing, which we'll get to later if you want.
Any update on the
ERC? No update except as per last time, we got a notification from the IRS that the 1 quarter that they looked at and questioned was fine. A little,
that was the one that you told us about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've not heard anything besides that. The implications of that are big because that would technically free up half of the contingency reserve, which is now on our balance sheet, which the auditors a couple years ago made us take out of income. And I mean, that's 604,000 on our balance sheet. I mean, I think we're going to clear it with the auditors before the end of the year, but we'll probably get to take half of that back into income, so that looks even better for us. That looks even better for us. So that's a positive development, and I expect the whole thing to be resolved and taken back into income. We still have to decide whether we want to pursue the 2 quarters that we didn't get. I mean, it would be an embarrassment of riches, basically. But anyway, we have another banker coming Friday, for another. So they'll be fighting over us. It's quite exciting. It really is. Yeah. That's it. Payables and stuff. No questions, no problems, whatever.
Any questions on finances or the staff report? A motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, consent agenda approved. There's no public comment, right? No. All right, and then Bob J presentation.
I'm Dawn Miller. I'm from Ball State University's Office of Charter Schools. I'm here tonight to share with you some observations we had during a visit that we had in November. I want to apologize that we didn't get up here prior to now, but you all have a lot of snow and it's cold, and we actually even tried to schedule some in February with other schools and we had to cancel. So we do apologize for the delay in getting this to you. But we were here November 12th, and we spent a day, and we just want to recognize and share with you how much we value our relationship with Discovery Schools. Lisa has been wonderful to work with, and as has Greg. So, and all the people that we meet. So, what I'd like to do is share with you, why do we come out and do a midterm review? So, you have a charter, and you're authorized by us, and your charter is for X number of years. About halfway through that time, we like to come out. We come out just to give what we hope is actionable feedback for your consideration. Nothing that we're going to share tonight is prescriptive. You simply do not have to do any of the recommendations that we'll put out tonight. It's for you to discuss and decide if it's something that this feedback is valuable to you, because we recognize we're here one day. We don't have a full look at your school in 24 hours. It's not even 24 hours while we're here. So we do want to put that caveat in. We want to have you continuously improve. And then when it comes to October 1st of 2026, that's when your renewal application is due. We try to meet with as many people as we can. So from students to parents to the board to the school leadership, we try to get in as many opportunities to speak with as many people while we're here. We do tend to find themes. And so what I mean by that is we may hear something, a little actionable feedback from the students, and then all of a sudden the teachers mention it. And before long, we kind of have a thread. And when we find those threads, those are things that we like to point and highlight out to you. We won't just, if one person in one meeting says one thing, you know, we try to get multiple perspectives and kind of get threads as we give our recommendations. So a lot's gone on here since our last visit. You know, we're now standing in what I call the barn. I think you probably have a different label for it, but half of it's been converted into a STEM learning environment. Some new things that have been happening here, and the reason I'm listing these is because I'm going to give you some feedback on what people said about them. Staggered dismissals were implemented. You know, your lunch and recess time has been altered. There are opportunities for staff now for professional development and PLCs. One of the things, and Greg and I laughed on this, is a master calendar. I too was a principal of a K-12 school, and when he said that one of the first things he did was create a master schedule, I was like, yeah, that's probably really awesome. So they did that. Grades 4 and 5 were departmentalized, and there are some opportunities now for your students who are progressing well to take online classes in algebra and or a world language. You added an elective period to middle school, and you had a curriculum change. That's a lot. So we just want to point that all out to you. One of the things that I know we had talked with Greg about was that he is applying for a grant to see if there's a possibility for a SRO, a school resource officer. So one of the things that I do is I kind of walk the grounds and look for things just for, you know, as observations. You know, your exterior is very well maintained, there's signage. We came in during drop off, it was very well staffed, the entrances, the doors, hallways, ran smoothly. One of the things that, again, this is a best practice with doors and windows, having them clearly numbered, and you put doors by numbers, windows by alphabet. You have a comprehensive map that you then give to fire, police, emergency management, all of those things. So I didn't see those, but that's just an observation. You'll see it in our recommendation. You can take it for what it's worth. The classroom doors, the doors and windows should be clearly signed and numbered. We did observe that not all classroom doors were shut and locked during instruction. So I always go back and point out to people, it was in 2016, so it's been a few minutes, Sandy Hook Commission gave a report on school safety following the unfortunate events at Sandy Hook. And they found, as they went back and researched school shootings in the United States, and it holds true to this day, that there has never been a school fatality behind a locked door. So when people come in, they're looking for hallways, they're looking for open classrooms, but nobody behind a locked door has ever been fatally injured. So as we go through recommendations, I'm going to come back to that and tell you that because I think it's powerful. I was a school principal and I had teachers, keeping that door shut. You know, I have to open it when someone goes to the bathroom, and then, you know, you have to close it. And it takes a lot of time, but, you know, I think that Sandy Hook report and what's happened thereafter is really compelling. When I share that usually with teachers, that's something that will resonate with them. But again, it'll show up in recommendations. We were here on a day where there was recess. It was cold. But we didn't get observe any outdoor education while we were here. We saw children at play, and you had a marvelous teacher that came up and tapped us on the shoulder and asked us welcome. So kudos to that teacher. I wish I had remembered her name. So good safety practices, but we didn't observe any while we were here. So I kind of like to start off with attendance. It's kind of the buzzy thing right now in legislatures and the way that the IDOE in the state is looking at attendance. Now we know we've had a global pandemic, and attendance from there, you know, has really fallen. So what we'd like to talk about today is a model attendee. This is the criteria that the state holds the school to. So at the top, and I hope you can see it, a model attendee is a student who attends 96% of their time, 96%, or they've improved 3% from the previous year. So on the GPS dashboard, they use 94%. It's not used for accountability, but we are thinking that eventually this may become the new way that attendance is tracked. So when you look at your rates for accountability over time, I think, again, to be fair, we have a pandemic sitting in here, right? So we have a pandemic, and here is the subsequently the students that are model attendees. We don't have this year's data. Now, chronically absent are the kids that are missed 18 days or more. Okay, those are your kiddos for whom absences are really accumulating. And if you notice, there's a bit of an upward trend as you look at students who are chronically absent. You can compare that to the state average, you know, and again, we look at this with the district average and the state average. Oh, golly, that's interactive. So one of the things, and it's a lot of numbers, and I'll send the PowerPoint to Greg to share with you all. Attendance has declined post-COVID at Discovery and in your local community. We're not just picking you out. We're saying that if you look at Newland, you know, comparable districts, attendance problems are becoming greater. So, you know, to be proactive, and again, we've spoken already a little bit about this with Greg. We will, at the end of this presentation, have some recommendations and some ideas about attendance, but really trying. Back in the day, we just looked at attendance, it was what it was. Now you can drill down into data more because they're tracking it. So, you know, having the ability to go in and identify, you know, those chronically absent kids, they missed 18 days. Who are they? You know, what can you drill down and see why, you know, this student, oh, of course, was sick and missed XYZ days. You know, oh, okay, we understand, you know, there was a complication here, but for those kids for whom there are no logical explanations, then there are strategies and research-based strategies that work with attendance. So we'd like to share those with you tonight.
Maybe if you touch the screen.
Yeah, maybe you can touch
I
it.
think I might as well leave it to-
Okay, sorry. It's for short people.
back.
All right.
Try just touching on the third, like on the 3 slide.
Oh, wait, we're, yeah. Okay. I'd like to set that in slide notes. I'm sorry, I'm into technology and I am not. Okay. So now I should be, there we go. So here's another piece of data that's interesting. All the data that we compile is publicly accessible information. So we don't look specifically, you don't give us attendance information. We get it from, to make sure that we have good information, we get it from the IDOE. This is on GPS, which is Indiana Graduates Prepared to Succeed website. And this is the percentage of students who attend at least 94% of the time. So we're looking at 10 or fewer absences, and they actually break it down by grade level. So again, this is information we wouldn't have had 5 or 10 years ago. But when you look at certain grade levels, I think you can develop strategies and ways to, perhaps when you have incoming kindergartners, address attendance, right? Because it looks a little softer in kindergarten. Now on the flip side, 5 and 6-year-olds get sick all the time. You don't want sick kids at school, but I think you can look at those grade levels and see if perhaps there are some strategic ways you can look at the attendance, maybe develop some strategies. So students, that's the best part of our visit is when we get to come in and talk to children. And again, what we do is we are telling you what they told us. This is not us speaking. This is, we just record what students are saying. So K3 students reported that they feel bored, while the 4th and 5th grade students said they feel more academically challenged than ever before with the new departmentalization. Middle school students said Discovery is much better academically than their previous schools. They kept saying they were upping the curriculum, so I'm using their vernacular when I say they were upping the curriculum. But they did say that there were some issues with IU high school online classes that was a frustration point for them. I thought this was kind of funny. The K3 student said the students are kind of kind to each other, but there was bullying. And from their perception, when they report it to their teacher, it keeps occurring. The older grade, and it's funny, the middle schoolers, I'm telling you, they are self-aware. They said, recess, there's not enough monitoring. They said the Gaga kit was rough. They said most of the unwanted middle school behaviors occur during lunch, recess, in the bathroom, which isn't that uncommon. I didn't put it on the slide, but I will tell you that the middle schoolers said the boys were the problem. So that's just what they said. That's not what I said. The students believe there's not enough time to eat. They said that they felt like by the time we got their lunches, they had small portions, and they kept talking about pink water. And they said it was terrible. I know. When we asked about pink, they just said it was pink.
Well water, yes, pink, no.
Yeah, so we just tell you what they report to us. So, as with everything, you're getting their perspective. They love going out with going on hikes, field trips, Friday popcorn, coding, project-based learning, STEM. These are kids that really got excited about, this is a great facility, this is made for this. And so all those things that this school affords, they were really excited about. Classroom observations. So we go into as many classrooms as we can, and likely there are 2 or 3 of us that come. We each go into multiple classrooms. From our bird's eye view on that day, the teachers were preparing. And they had a nice blend of small group and whole group instruction. Sometimes you go to a school and it's all direct instruction, or you go and it's all project based. They had a good flow with that. We did notice low student engagement in several classes. to the point, like, students were just simply speaking over the teacher to where other students were having a hard time attending. We can definitely tell the school has invested in more classroom support, instructional assistance. There seems to be a lot of good help here. We did see one safety issue that we covered during the visit. In a classroom that had a substitute teacher, and the only reason I'm putting that in there is this information. Special education classes in sport were present, visible. And we thought the middle school elective classes were very interesting and varied. It's kind of interesting. And here come the teachers. Back again, we're just reporting what they said. They report that the school to them just seems comfortable and calm. They really value their relationships with each other. The teacher said it's hard to get it all in a day. You know, we are pushed and pulled trying to get all the curriculum in. You know, in any time that there's something added to the schedule, they feel like something comes out, it's hard to get it done. They did say that they would like to have kind of a school-wide expectation set about the consistency for cell phone usage and eating in the classroom. The gist of that I got was that perhaps some teachers are more lenient than others, which makes, you know, one teacher look more like the bad guy. They were also concerned about allergies, and that's totally valid as well. You know, if you have people eating in the classroom and they have somebody beside them that has an allergy that they don't know about, and you know, that's a behavior that could be a concern. The teachers feel like there's been a lot of change. That's fair. There's been a lot of change. They would like to have more of a voice going forward when decisions are made. They would like the school to keep its emphasis on outdoor learning experiences. They really feel that the mission of the school is a good mission, that they believe in it. They would like to do more project-based outdoor learning that's hands-on and exciting. Again, they said it's hard to get in a day. So again, you can take that for what it's worth, but that's what they were. They do believe that over time, more families are coming to Discovery that probably embrace less the outdoor education part of Discovery. You know, they find that getting kids to complete homework is a challenge, and they feel like that overall some students are lacking focus and kind of grit. The teachers again would like to have a voice. You know, when curricular selections are being made, you know, whenever there's a proposed change, they at least like to have a voice. And they, you know, they did say, we understand having a voice doesn't mean that everybody's going to agree with what we would say, but just having the opportunity to ponder something that's getting ready to be instituted.
I want to say something.
Sure.
Being here a year and a half, the first year we did change to Ironman, and that is, we get reimbursed
Right,
for that.
right.
So it's very
Science of reading.
correct. So make no mistake. I mean, you can't just buy whatever you want.
Well, and just to add to that, we had a different curriculum picked out, but it wasn't one that we knew we were going to get reimbursed for. So it was kind of a last minute decision so it was very last minute, but also came with
Yes.
recommendations from admin who've used it before.
And yeah, I mean, I never.
Yeah.
And it had
I've never
guidelines.
even, it does. But also with that, if you guys in the board should remember, we were reimbursed for about $86,000. $88,000 we spent last year for the curriculum. This school year, because teachers did say they didn't have a voice. This year we spent almost double. So teachers got everything they wanted. They did. I knew, even though last year was the first year of, you know, they did away with textbook rental, I knew we were probably gonna get reimbursed for about the same amount, which we did. So, but I also knew that there was a carryover from the year before. We were in a good financial situation. I knew about, obviously, the charter, grant that we got. So I wasn't too worried about it. So that's part of the reason why I felt like it was important. The teachers, they got everything they basically wanted as far as.
Sometimes when people have feedback that they're not included, sometimes they don't understand all that has gone on in the background for them.
Yeah.
And it can be easy to take things, I want to say for granted, but it can be easy to not understand. So out of context, I think just them knowing what you just said would probably go a long way.
I did bring that up, understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I did.
Like
So-
even the part about we spent double this year to make sure you
Yes.
got what you wanted. Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm not the end all be all and know everything, as far as, what works and, what doesn't, but it does have to be research based. You do have to use data to drive your instruction. You do have to analyze results. All those things, that's all scientific. I mean, it's very common. Educational programming, deciding on what you're going to get, how you're going to use it, what does it look like, how is it effective, what are we doing when kids know something, what are we doing when kids don't understand. So it's all blends together.
And hopefully this is an isolated issue with the irate because we had to make a quick decision. So I'm sure going forward, Greg, with your history with bringing in different things. So if we do go through a next curriculum change, it can be open up to the families and the teachers to peruse it, to give us the feedback, have like almost a book fair kind of feel to it. So I'm sure you get there, but I think a lot of times this past year, you coming off, everything was so quick and having to make those hard decisions right then and there, trying our best. So I hope they understand that we do value their voice.
And I really wasn't even in that part
Right.
when I first started.
Right.
I was more on the business side. Another individual was kind of in charge of the curriculum. I mean, I'm not trying to say it past the bump, because I'm not, because they came to me.
And to be fair, the staff had just went through a caravan of the different curriculum and chosen, and then it got switched on in the last minute.
Yeah.
So I see those things.
Yeah, for sure.
They seem eager to learn, they like more coaching and classroom motivation so that they can be reflective practitioners and better their practice. They would like to continue to have training in science and reading, and it's new. It's mandated by the state, and I'm sure that most schools would say that the more training they can get in science and reading, the better. They said that the Tuesday through Thursday professional development is still kind of developing and morphing. It hasn't always met its schedule. But one thing I would like to do is have an opportunity to talk with the classroom teachers and grade about them and grade them about them, to move the vertical. And that makes sense, what are you seeing, what, we would do that at my school, what do you see as weak? From a third grade teacher, or second grade teacher, they'll say, what do you think is a little weak, what can I shore up?
There's another change that I think, and I don't remember any classes, this is just the one time, but I do want to point out, and it kind of goes with the master schedule. Last year, obviously being my first year, we went off of the schedule that they had already. I didn't come in and change the master schedule the first year. I had, but one of the things that I noticed with our math scores, they went down quite a bit. So one of the first things that I saw was in the middle school, kids, they have block scheduling, and they'll have some weeks, they would only have math 2 days a week, and other weeks 3 days a week. So they didn't have it. This year, we changed that. We put our math interventionist, who's also a licensed teacher, and now kids have math every single day. That will not go away. that's one of those non-negotiables. Our middle school kids have math every day, language arts every day.
Any other questions or comments so far? Parents, we had a great group of parents that we had an opportunity to speak with. They really like and embrace the place-based outdoor activities that their children get to do. They love that they're close to the Dune State Park. They do think that some of the class sizes are large, but overall, the hominess and the overall feel of a school that's not as large as perhaps their home district, they value. They really like, they said basically, if you want to dig in and be a part of this community, you can be. It can be close knit. You know, if you can be as involved as you'd like to be, because there are opportunities. This was interesting. I can't say that I'm just going to throw it out there for you. Parents believe there's room for improvement on how Discovery helps students transition from middle school to high school. They see an opportunity for the school to work with whatever school district that they're going to see if there are ways that you can make the bridge. So maybe having a shadow day. I'm just throwing out options of things that other schools have done, like, you know, the 8th graders shadow somebody at the other school, that they have an opportunity to hear from school leaders. Like, there are lots of things. Counselors usually work with counselors on these kind of things. But one parent was very fervent, and she really thought that some of her friends had decided not to come here because they wanted a better transition as they moved from 8th grade into high school. So that's one person's comment, as you want.
And that is a really good point. And I'm glad you brought that up, because last year we did hire a social worker for
Yes.
grades 5 through 8, and she's awesome. And she is definitely, I mean, I've seen already improvements already from her first year to
Sure.
this year. And I think that will continue
You have to.
to evolve. Right.
And it's not a surprise. Me and you have been talking
Yeah.
about it for many years.
Okay, to me, I was like, okay, I didn't really understand it, but I record what they say. They really like the outdoor education, that they go outside more. They really emphasize that they want to make sure the school holds true to its mission as an outdoor education and learning environment. They enjoy that the kids go on field trips. One person, well, actually, they all agreed, or I wouldn't have put it on here, that they felt like students spent more time on computers, and perhaps that time could be used outdoors. You know, they're to fuse learning and incorporate it more. So that's their input. They did say that their students' outdoor experience seemed to vary by teacher. Like, you know, maybe my 3rd grade teacher was outside all the time, loved the outdoors. The 4th grade teacher, maybe not. And I'm just throwing this grades out there. We know that the school aspires for all students to be outside. I mean, that is your mission. But from the parents' perspective, there's no policy or accountability to ensure that teachers adhere to it. So that's just their comment. Again, they said that when talking with other parents, they feel like the outdoor education classrooms aren't used a lot. They know that their children enjoy STEM activities, but they said, you know, they understand there's a push and pull, and if STEM comes in, they don't want to see outdoor education go out, right? They want to make sure that both are incorporated and that you don't emphasize one over the other if they're both in here. They're concerned that this conversion leaves less opportunities for outdoor education for students because it's being used as a STEM room. Again, this is all new. They have to get used to new ways of doing things. So that's what they're concerned. You guys, so what does school board have to that? You know that eventually there's going to be some churn with the school board. You know, you are looking for board members that are environmental, perhaps have some school background. You realize that your population changes, you know, as with most schools report more special education, there are students with growing needs, and your free and reduced percentage of students continues to increase. Again, there's the perception that perhaps students and families aren't coming here just for the outdoor education placement rather than they're looking for a choice of another school because their child isn't being successful in their own. I know that you have on your radar to bring back and enhance the environmental emphasis. You see the sustainability of the board, finances, improving test scores as all things that you would like to continue to work on. And we also have completed a board observation and noticed that you all follow protocol. You're in line with Indiana open door and access laws. So these are just recommendations. I feel like I have to say that a million times, but that's the last time I will say it. But, we sit down and talk about your school. We want your school to be the best it can be. Sometimes an external person can come in and see something maybe you don't because you're too into the day-to-day. Sometimes you can come in and see something, you don't know what's up because you aren't here day-to-day. So it's a push and a pull. But we would say one of the things you could consider is looking at your attendance policy. And there are certain things that in a policy that should be included. And I looked through your policy and I didn't see all of these parts. So not saying that I could have made a mistake, but it should have working with CPS, juvenile probation officers. Those are Indiana code driven, and I'm going to give you the code at the end of the presentation, along with procedures to report educational neglect, and that's working with prosecutors' offices. Thinking about, and I'm so happy to hear Greg said you have an attendance committee. Yeah, so that's wonderful. That's a best practice. So having them dig a little deeper into attendance analysis and kind of see why the chronic absenteeism continues to grow, why the attendance is a bit on a downward trend, because again, it's coming more and more the topic, in Indiana. If they're not in the seat, they're not learning. So, finding research-based effective ways to address absenteeism. Policies and procedures. Think about reviewing policies and procedures with staff so that they all understand the consistency needed, whether it's cell phone usage, meeting in the classroom, those kinds of things. And consider meeting, and Greg, I think maybe alluded that the counselor has this on her list. Counselors or other administrators to meet with local schools to see if you can have some kind of a transitioning happening. I think would be good. Again, with the safety elements, we always should be mindful of the landscaping under the windows of classrooms. If you've got to throw a kid out a window because of a fire, they can't lean to the 6-foot-tall bush. You're just gonna, so being mindful that that's kept low, remove it if you need to, so that everybody can leave if they need to. It's best practice. I would say if I have any suggestion at all that I would say, I'm gonna put a gold star by it, is making sure your classroom doors are locked. And again, you have to be consistent with that, because before long, all of a sudden teacher A will open, and I would go along the hallway and I would shut doors, and send an email. But that's something that's just a really strong safety practice. Another thing to think about is the classroom windows. Like each door has a window, making sure there's covering available so you can quickly put it over the window in the event that your security has been breached. While we move students to a location of safety, there's always an angle somebody can look in, whatever. So it's just better to have everything start to be locked out so that nobody can move. Thinking about, again, if there were a security event that happened, what's your reunification plan? You've got one road in and out, which I know you're working on, but how are you gonna link up? If something disastrous happens and everybody comes out of here, what's your reunification plan? How are you gonna get each student, each parent? What's your communication? where you're gonna meet. I mean, all of those types of things are things that, it really should be articulated, because when you're in the moment, and Greg, we lock down. When you're in the moment, it's just nice to have like standard protocol. Everybody knows what's up. Parents know, students know, your teachers know.
That was one of the first things I noticed coming here, is that there is not a reunification plan. And I personally think we could possibly have two, just one here, east and west. Just, because of where we're situated, even like you mentioned. I met with, town of Porter engineer about having the one trying to get an emergency road right here next to the barn. See, and that's all part of that Homeland Security grant. So, there's only X amount of dollars that they'll give. You can go that route, or you can go with an SRO. And there's only X amount of dollars. So that's something that I'm gonna have to talk to the board about. Because that will open up in June, that grant, and it is a matching grant. And I've been in conversation with the police, Porter Police, to do that, even regardless, because obviously we are situated within the town of Porter, so they would be, but the reunification plan is vital. So.
Because it's just a mess. I mean, parents are so emotional. Something's happened. They don't know what's going on. And one other thing you could consider is, in my county, we had an emergency management department. I would have them come out when I ran drills and have them kind of rate us and have them look at us and see if our practices were strong. We had the police do that and the fire. So again, you can take this as far as you want. We always are hoping that this never ever has to be used.
Right. The initial, any type of plan, safety plan, is you first have to do a threat assessment. So, and you have, it's a trained individual that's been through the school training, safe schools training. So, we're in compliance with our plan by law, but there's some things that we need to do to improve it. We just do. And that's coming for sure. By next school year, we'll have.
And to his great credit, a lot of the things that we've talked about, he was like, I've thought about that, or I've got a plan in place.
Yeah.
So, but we do want to go ahead and present it, even though he's had some thoughts about it, just to make sure that we give feedback to everyone. And the board, we just encourage you to carefully consider all the new initiatives, all the new projects, make sure they're carefully planned, that they're communicated and they're executed to keep the school stable. You've got a great place here. You want to keep it stable. And you also want to meet the key design elements in your mission. So I think part of your charge would be, as a board, to think about all the things that are coming up and view it through a lens and be a thought partner, and really think about all the changes that may be coming or may not be. And again, consider surveying teachers, parents, having forums to get perspectives of how new things are being perceived. Parents did want some avenue to be heard. How you do it is up to you. If you do it, it is up to you. But those are some suggestions as well. We've already talked about the curricular choices. One of the things that I would say, I can defend a school that's low performing if they're held hurt. Right? I can defend you all day long if your scores are low but your kids are growing. Right? What we're seeing in Discovery is there is an opportunity to get greater growth from your students. If they're not growing at the 50th percentile on average without every other kid, you're not closing gaps, you're creating them. And the kids that are behind you grow faster than the 50th, right? Because we've got to get them closing gaps. So, while state scores are important, pass rates are what you see, behind the scenes at the heart of the teacher is growing, right? You want to see kids grow and close gaps.
And have you seen, and Greg, this for you too, and you've all experienced, have you seen like the attendance teams being able to look at potential correlation of attendance, like students who aren't showing up, and are those the scores that we see that aren't?
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a direct
So we
correlation.
understand
Your
Right.
research would bear that out, but if you overall, say you have certain grades where the growth is lower than other grades, then that would be some discussions, right? And thinking about what professional development opportunities, what you can afford to teachers, because you want all of your students to grow. So doing that data analysis, digging in and seeing what the growth is at third, what's the growth at first, what's the growth at K, are all valuable data points for you to help make decisions.
And I, just to interject, I think in the past, when I learned was ISTEP, you looked at proficiency.
You did, that's
You
always
looked-
advertised.
Right,
Yeah.
you looked at like pass-fail. And I think the thing here was like, well, we had a lot, we have 75 kids max per grade level. And even in the middle school, it's 50 basically. So a small number can really have a big impact, right? But now we're looking at growth. That it looks at each individual kid and showing no growth, low growth, or high growth. So those numbers don't come into play as much as they do on an overall percentage. You understand what I'm saying? It makes a bigger impact now that we're at growth. And now next year, when we go to quarterly assessments from grades 4 through 8 or 3 through 8 in the areas of language arts and math, they're basically saying you're teaching this at this time. So and that's across the state. I mean, if you don't do it, I don't know why you wouldn't, because that's what the kids are going to be tested on. So some of the things that we have in place, the math every day, that alone, I'll guarantee our math scores are up just by the point of having it twice as often, So, but there's a lot of good things that are happening here. It's just, there truly is, and academically, instructionally. And we're going to talk about those. There's some things that Deb and I have kind of worked out with some teachers and bringing some teacher leadership up and being a part of it. We don't want to hire a third administrator. We want to look at bringing some people up that have shown the capacity of instructional integrity and in the curriculum and data analysis, and bring them up. So it just becomes embedded in who we are here, right? It doesn't matter if she leaves, I leave, whoever comes, but it just becomes the fabric of the core of what we are.
And you think about it as a parent, if you have a student that school is easy for, say they're a high ability student, they're going to pass ISTEP or iLearn. But if they show no growth as a parent, so we want to make sure that each child grows to the extent that they should based on where they started at. And so that's why that's all scaled, right? That the state does the calculations. We don't have to sit with algebra and try to do all that. That's available so you can see your growth online. So I would encourage you as a board, as you're working to get the proficiency levels up, to ask some really good questions about growth and what kind of analysis has been done. We talked about science and reading. Again, just onboarding new teachers, making sure that they understand this is an outdoor education place-based school. If you're coming here, this is who we are, right? Not that you wouldn't, right? But I think that from what I've heard, some teachers were less into it than others, right? So making sure that your new hires really embrace this and that it's a good fit for them as much as you feel like they're a good fit for your school. And again, with the substitute teachers, just making sure that they understand not only expectations, but what for classroom management, how to get help if we need it. You're not an island sitting in the classroom that things feel like you need help, then it's yourself.
That all comes with common curriculum maps, missing guidance. It's just there's a lot.
Studying's a hard job. It's hard, it
is.
doesn't pay well,
Yeah.
and kids act totally different when there's somebody else in the room. So just making sure that they have access to the help that they may need retains them too, so. That's it. Do you guys have any questions?
You just show them the resources, Dawn, in case.
Oh,
they-
I'm sorry, of course.
You know, I think this was really great, and I think a lot of it is stuff that we've identified and have been trying to work through, so I don't think, and none of it comes as a surprise to me.
So these are the resources, certificate of incapacity, making sure your school utilizes that, it is in the code. I find a lot of our charter schools don't know about certificate of incapacities, and that's okay, but once you learn about them, it's gonna help your attendance rate. So, you know, we just wanna put that as a resource. You don't have to invent the wheel, there are sample letters that we've included that other schools have used. Attendance Work, which Greg was familiar with, is a website that has powerful and free professional development for attendance. They are incredibly research-based, they're culturally competent. I've learned a lot from them. And then the Ad Council has some messaging again that can help you with wording to make sure that your wording is appropriate based on our state. So you just don't have to do it all on your own. Educational neglect, there is the definition, again, by code. We are required to look at and report educational neglect. Now, I'm not gonna say if you report it, that they're gonna do anything about it, but the onus is on the school to report to be compliant. Habitual truants, what constitutes an habitual truant? If we were in a high school, I'd say the first thing I always did as a high school principal was say, if you can't be here, I do have the ability to have your learner's permit or your driver's license revoked for 6 months minimum. So, but there are things about habitual truants that you as a school need to be aware of and make sure you're doing. I know that the driver's license is not applicable. And then the reporting, you know, about the juvenile intake officer, you know, if you have a relationship with your local juvenile probation, if you do with your local prosecutor's offices, are all things that if you develop rapport with them and they see that you're serious, then I have had some luck in my own practices of building a leader, and getting them to listen. Not all the time.
I just have a question, if you guys would like to answer. I feel like a lot of our kids are too, like, we either have a lot more like pre-reduced, like looking for a different district kind of a thing, or we have a lot of parents that are like, maybe I'll homeschool, but maybe I'll go to Discovery. So with the attendance policy, I feel like a lot of, and you guys could probably speak more of this, but a lot of our families are more on like, I'm gonna take a vacation because you know, it's not, I think that it's kind of both realms of it.
So maybe onboarding new families and what that looks like, you know, what communications you give them. If you sit, I used to sit with each new student's family, but you know, it's all in what you can do.
I think with,
and articulating your expectation for attendance.
I think though what I fear that because homeschooling is a big thing right now, right? Like there's a huge increase. I fear that we could see our numbers go down because parents are apt to homeschool opposed to like, I've seen this on a lot of Facebook groups and like just the state of Indiana, not Discovery, but with the whole policy. And I definitely see it both ways. Like as a mom, honestly, like I see my kids out of school and then go on vacation. But as a school, like I see how it's important for them to be in the seat and learning, and I just don't know what that balance is for a school like Discovery who has both sides of the families. And I mean, we have to obviously make the laws, but I kind of wonder, I think that there's a balance. I don't know that all of our kids with high, and I would be interested to see that like data.
Yeah, I do think in our most recent update with the attendance policy, truancy, and all of that, we did add a lot of language that has been in law for quite a while. It just wasn't in our current policy. So I mean, ours is typically cut and pasted, you know, I mean, basically is. But when we get into family vacations and things like that, because when, you know, there are families that when they, you know, they do take their kids to the, you know, national parks and state parks around the country and other countries, learning does take place, and we can allow that, and we do, and But I think we have to look at every case individually, because, you know, if we've got a kid or kids that are more intelligent than me, I'm just not saying but, and they're doing everything they're supposed to, and, you know, the families are really involved in their education, and it's very obvious by how they're performing in the class. I think it looks a little bit different than the kid that is not ever doing any work. Those are the kids that you're describing, are the kids that they need to be here. It's not their choice that sometimes, you know, their parents aren't bringing them to school or for this reason or for that reason. So we have to look at those. It's almost like a case by case basis. And I think we do. So, and we will use that policy for the benefit of our kids, because that's what we're here for. So those kids that are doing well, that have that home support, that can do that, we'll continue to allow that. Those kids that aren't performing, they're below average, they're not showing results, and some of our parents aren't really enforcing that, then we can apply it differently.
It would be good to get, like data as far as the grades, their attendance compared to what we're seeing as far as, their growth this year.
That's very easy, very easy.
And we want to thank you for letting us finish the night with this. If you have any questions, we're just so more than welcome to answer any questions you might have. Just so you know, we're available. Keep this up with you and Greg as well.
And as Dawn mentioned, Greg will have the PowerPoint, so you can send it to you. So if you read it over and have any questions, let us know.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, very much so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you don't mind, we are going to go ahead and head out.
Yeah. Are you guys driving back?
One of us.
I am. She's. I came up last night. So.
Oh. Well, thank you guys for coming
Thank
out.
you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys both so much.
Oh, no
It's
problem.
been a great resource, really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
So I left the curriculum on here. I didn't know if you had the iRead results available yet, if we wanted to talk about that. or-
They are available, they are not to parents yet.
Okay.
They're going this week, so it'll be next.
So we'll wait till the next meeting. And then, I know you told me at the last meeting, but when is the next iRead assessment?
The next assessment will be, the window opens May 12th.
Okay, that's your math and reading?
For iRead, no, for iReady.
Yeah, sorry.
iReady. iReady will do, the lower grades will do it in April.
Okay, so we'll probably have those results at the May board meeting.
Possibly, it may not be till June.
Okay.
Because it just, and some of the other grades are deciding on, we have to wait for iPhone to get over to. Got it.
The
But
TBD.
some of the ones that have done diagnostics already from the year, we've seen a lot of growth.
Good.
A lot of growth. Which is what we want to see. Now, whether they're at grade level, but the growth is the key thing to see. We've seen a lot.
Good deal. Do you guys have any questions? All right, the posting for the board position, I left it on here. I'm going to postpone it until May or June because Greg's review is going to be coming up and I want to get that done punctually this year. And we have Dow going on and it's just too much for me to deal with all of that stuff. So that's the plan. If that's okay with you guys. Guiding principles, have you guys done anything with that since I left the meeting?
No, waiting for all of this. Now we'll proceed.
Perfect. Strategic planning. We had our special meeting, which was great. Have you reached out to anybody for like drawings or?
Yes. Drawing a blank. It's a local company. I'm familiar with them. They did a lot of work at Liberty Intermediate School when I was there. They did come out to talk about the specials building, and I also shared about closing in the outdoor area. He's an architect. He should be coming back to me next week with a cost. Or actually, today's Tuesday. It should be this week, because I met with him last week. So this week with an estimate of what that would look like, and because I want to be able to show you guys the different options. I've been in contact with Hamstra, FBI buildings, and Morton. They do the permanent pole barn. Hamstra did the last edition of the gym, and so I've been in contact with all of them. I personally, even talking with the architect, basically, just because I think we could start on that, obviously once we got board approval, we're looking at plans, looking at the ideas, going over options. I even asked him if he would, be willing to come and present, show the board everything. That we could potentially get started on that as soon as possible.
If we can get some drawing
Yeah.
for the next meeting, and then
Oh,
we
we
can
for
compare,
sure
because
will.
we'll have to do an RFP.
Right, absolutely. But basically, it's just, it's covering that area, and we have to have, he brought up even garage doors. We'd have to build that up, we'd have to have footer, and a lot of the stuff, I already know, but we'd have to have, footers, poured concrete, we'd have to have drainage. I don't think we would need AC, because it's, we'd be able to open up everything up, we definitely need to have fans, we definitely need to have electric, heating, but even like the garage door, windows, garage doors, and things like that. So, whether they're sliders or whatever, I think that will be determined based on specific measurements, but we would basically enclose that whole area, but it has to have windows.
Although these sliders have held up, I would say we get garage doors.
Yeah. And then, even mentioning, how like when you turn the corner, because we would obviously keep that service drive there for deliveries to the kitchen, but we would build that, that one retaining wall and have even have garage doors. So that way we could open it all up. I just think it'd be awesome, because then, and based on current drawings from, because I came up with that, like an idea like that last year. There was drawings of fitting of 160 kids in there, which that would far surpass the 150 is the max for any 2 grade levels. But
That'd be a great, extra area to use.
absolutely, everything's in there.
And that would alleviate a lot of them, because I do keep hearing lunch is too short, and I do hear a lot of that, so that would alleviate some of that too. All right, so we'll plan for, I don't think we need to have a special meeting with spring break and everything, but if you get the drawings, then we could look at that.
Yeah, he gave me an estimate of around $4,000 to $5,000 just to do those too. Those are going to be they're not going to be all the technical. That's typically 10% of the overall cost of everything. So that'd be a good amount. But we have to, it's too big of a project.
Yeah.
To do
Sounds good. Anything else? All right, the updated wellness policy, the first read. Do you guys have comments, questions, concerns?
Not too many. I thought it was interesting, the staff food options have to be 50% healthy in the lounge. How are we going to actually make sure that's installed? You know what I mean? How do you ensure that? Yeah. Is it an honor system? Other than that, and then the other thing was, food as a reward. I guess we can just have to keep a tighter eye on that, because every now and then there's do we sometimes offer a pizza party for a something or other? You
Was
know,
this- Was this
sometimes-
policy from the state?
Yeah, who wrote this?
The one Stacy did,
Like it
Is
has
it copy and-
gone through just very basic iterations
It was-
from like, it was probably initially written probably 10 years ago.
but all that stuff wasn't in it before, was it?
Right, those are just like the iterations that we've reviewed it and updated it twice in the past 5 years.
So the
So-
staff and the no
That
food
was
have been in it?
all in there. I did not touch.
Yeah, one thing says staff teachers lounge will contain at least 50% healthy choices.
But did this come from, I'm wondering when we made the policy, and maybe I think you were on that committee when it was made, maybe? I thought it came from the state that it needed to be, if I like remember, and this is the same
It does look kind of
policy.
copy and pasted, some of it like from some sort of code or something.
And I wanna say like it was around the whole healthy Michelle
Could be.
Obama lunch push.
That's what it, yeah, it is a requirement if you use the National School Lunch Program that you have a wellness policy at your school.
Mhm.
But it doesn't
No,
say what
because
has
that
to be in it.
Right,
Yeah,
it is not,
So this is the policy that was created 5 years ago,
more than.
and no one touched this thing,
It
we're just looking at it.
So I think it needs to go to policy, and I think that we could meet and look it over, and then we can kind of, because I do think that, I thought that it was all what had to be in there. If it's not like coming from the state that the stuff has to be in here, then I think that we need to, because there's a lot in here that we probably.
Yeah, somebody else.
we don't do
It's just unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and a lot of it too is just, you can have it in policy, how are you actually implementing it? Because if this was set 5 years ago, we should be adhering to it today.
Right.
This is not being.
But I mean, most of it's right. There's just a few little tiny things like that. That's like,
Well, what, I don't know, no fry, everything is baked or steamed.
I don't think they have a fryer. They don't fry.
Also, it can come here fried, frozen.
Well, this is talking about school lunch, I think, but
Yeah,
But they get like 2 minutes.
I don't know how they, yeah, I don't think they, I don't know.
All right, let's meet. Maybe we'll talk about a date and then have a new first reading the next meeting. Yeah. And then if you guys had comments to this, why don't you send them to us and we can kind of put it together?
Yeah.
Because I would like to see it like this
Do
big.
you think, you think we can meet at home on that Monday?
If you're available.
Of what Monday?
It's the Monday.
It's the 31st.
The e-learning time for.
I have to be back.
So do you
Is
plan
that
to-
the 31st?
It's a Monday.
Yep. What time?
It's up to you.
We're meeting at 10:30, so maybe 9:30,
We're meeting at 9.
or whatever time's good for you. With the store. 9:30.
Or we have the development at 10.
Oh, so 9, could you do?
Okay. I'll send that out.
All right,
And in the meantime, because I didn't even see this, so I haven't read it. So
When she sent it in March.
I'll look at other corporations and stuff, and I'll bring that.
yeah, I mean, I think it should be a little specific to us.
No, but it can't, but I also, I need to look at I need to look up the
Yeah.
code to make sure.
Does it need to have all, like, the rationale? That's how I thought it was funny, like, this is a weird policy.
Yeah.
This is a policy.
Mhm.
Greg will find out.
It-
And if it's that old, these numbers probably aren't even right.
I updated the numbers, I don't know if you, did
I
I?
added them, I added your edits like at 4 o'clock, so.
Because, yeah, it was old statistics. And I suggested we take out the COVID too, because.
Because everybody needs to be.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Development. So Dow is coming up. We are getting sponsorships coming in, which is amazing. We sold quite a bit of tickets with the pre-sale. And then pre-sale tickets are happening now and they're selling steady. We are working on basket items. Class basket information went out yesterday, Kelly sent it out.
Today,
Or today.
I want to have, maybe, Ms. Hubble send out a reminder or something to, from the school.
And then, as far as development, we have a meeting the 31st to talk about, an opportunity to advertise at the bowling alley. They have like screens that change. So it's really cheap. It's $388 for the year. For advertising at the bowling at Inman's. So, coming up with a good ad that will catch people's attention. Kelly suggested a QR code today, so, which I did ask him about and he thought that it would work. We could definitely do that. And then we have Kids Day Out, which I saw he emailed today about. I think that's it right now. Popcorn Fest is signed up, signed, sealed, delivered. That, finance. Alan, do you want to talk about the bonds?
Yes, yes, love to. We got a commitment for a bank to lend us money, our first one, and it's pretty exciting. It's basically from Centur, who's been with us really since the first time we talked to them, and it's $5.87 million loan, which is the amount of the refinanced bonds offset by the interest reserve. Okay, that's the net of it exactly. In fact, it's at 6 7/8%, but it is adjustable. It's adjustable in 5 years, and it's a 10-year loan. Although it's a 25-year amortization schedule, so it's very favorable. That would be a debt service of $40,000 a month or so. It's just tremendous for us. But it is a 10-year loan, so we have to be refinancing again in 10 years. That is, again, in contrast to a public financing, which we're also keeping on the table, which would get us a lower interest rate fixed for 30 years. It'd be maybe 5 3/4, and it goes out 30 years, but it's hideously expensive. Do we care about that? Well, we have to consider all options. It's pretty exciting that we have local banks that'll work with us, and let's face it, it's an ease of operation thing
They
too.
won't offer it fixed. Centur.
Well, I don't know. We're still kicking it around. You know, we have until the 30th, which I think is a little soon. I'd like to get an extension on that to commit to this. So that banks always want you to commit right away. The fees are ridiculous. It's like $15,000. That's compared to the bond issues, it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But anyway, so that's it. I mean, you're looking at.
I mean, literally that pays for, like, the fees pays for the extensions if you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's a completely different set of circumstances. The interest rate's a little bit better than we initially thought. But as we were made aware, it's going to be an adjustable loan, 5 years, and then in 10 years it's called, so we have to refinance. I'm excited to hear there's new construction in the planning, but I haven't heard any project costs or how you might finance this. So that may have to be worked into this. Who
That's
knows?
what we had talked about at the special meeting, was adding on to.
Okay, well that we have to know that like right away. So I don't know what project costs we're talking about, but we may have to work that into this proposal.
Yes, and I think once you get the drawings, then we would know a little bit better what we're thinking.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. I mean, our financial situation is good and getting better. Like, so we have a good proposal here. They're actually fighting over us. It's quite but someone who's been around since almost the beginning. It's exciting to see us get to this point. Really. These same banks wouldn't give us the time of day 10 years ago. But anyway, so that's it. So we have another meeting, Friday, first merchants, and
Is that with the whole finance committee or just you guys?
it's just the bank. Just the bank. I'll invite Suzanne.
Yeah.
It's the bank here Friday.
And then maybe talk to Suzanne about what we talked about in the specials meeting as far as adding on to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we have to consider that now. So, so it's all good.
Yeah, with doing both, it's probably gonna be
Well, that puts it in a whole different perspective. I mean, that's totally different.
But see, that's two projects.
Yeah, but we'll have to use some of our reserves.
But
I mean, we'll have to, oh, there's no doubt. I mean, they're not gonna lend us another 3 million, I don't think. I mean, that's up to the appraised value. And they're not gonna go more than 75%.
Amy did know
Huh?
that. And Amy did know that a little bit when you put I want around.
She didn't know that.
She knew that.
Oh, she
I
did.
talked to her.
Oh, about,
I know her personally, so yeah, we had a conversation about that.
all right, so they're not gonna go more than 75% of appraised value. So there's a ceiling there, and so we have to commit some of our reserves, which is fine. We have the money, and we should be able to commit it to capital expenditures like that.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Policy, we just talked about DI that you guys need.
I don't think we did. Did we cancel?
Yeah, it was
It's on
The DI?
spring break.
Yeah.
We're on spring break, yeah.
How do we do it?
Yes, I'm sorry. The PEC couldn't be here tonight, so I was sent their numbers. Their account has $24,926 in it, their main account. Their script account has $2,556 in it. They just did the musical last weekend. They had a great turnout for all 3 shows, and they assisted in that. They don't have the final numbers until next month for that. Upcoming, they have a lot of events. They're assisting with DAO and VIP Day. And then the teacher appreciation will be that first week of May. They'll be doing special things all throughout the week. There'll be the 5K in May, as well as a spring sale. There'll be information coming out about that, but that will be taking place here in the on the grounds, and families will be able to participate in it as well as just shop it. The whole community will be able to shop it. And then they'll be assisting in field day as well at the end of the month.
Discover roles we talked about, and then our next meeting is April 16th at 6 p.m.
School report, oh, I think that one got missed.
That's right over there. Sorry, John.
Skipped you out.
Sure, next time that's.
Right.
Well, one question on the school report. Have we looked into the tracking and trending on the bullying or the disciplinary issues? We talked about that at the beginning of the school year, but it was too early to have any data.
Yes, I'm still looking at that, and I'm also comparing it to last year.
One thing, if you notice, all of the discipline, the amount of disciplinary growth
It's
decreased.
went down quite a bit.
You said amongst girls?
No,
Oh.
decreased.
Oh, just
Yeah.
increasing.
Referrals, she said, referrals. I think.
Refer. Okay.
Which is good, but we probably do need to get it into more of an Excel sheet. So I mean, I know what it is, but like based on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that way it's running and you can see that, you can see all the percentages.
At the end of the year. to
I
see
thought
it.
you had it like that before, though. You had,
We do.
the breakdown, okay.
I think that was monthly. Versus looking at.
It is, but now you can.
We should have
compare
that.
at least to last year,
Right, yeah,
you know, month
Year
by
over
month. I think that's what
yeah,
we're referring to, right?
yeah.
I would just like kind of talking about the bullying, because sometimes I do feel like that comes up a lot in tours, like just in general, or like, I think it's a big thing right now, just all over. But it would be interesting to see how many complaints get made for bullying versus what really is bullying, and just like some education almost, as far as, because not everything that we think is bullying, right? So just kind of education on that, with maybe if you guys had talked about doing like a coffee with parents, like maybe that's what one of them is about or something.
And I know that Diane and Stacy have sent out that information, kind of like an outline. But yes, there is a lot of that word is thrown out a lot. We have done off the top of my head, I wanna say maybe 10, because every time it's said, you know, like, hey, my son or my daughter, or I think this is going on, then we have to investigate it. I think 2 so far this year out of the 10, roughly.
Or is there like in-service that we could pay for our family to like understand what it is, or our students, or I don't know, something, because that is a huge thing that comes across all the
is,
time in
absolutely.
tours,
Our
like,
social workers, we definitely.
Absolutely.
We also want to
Social
be,
workers there cannot
Yeah.
we also want to be mindful that it doesn't come across as like just a labeling of a thing. So if it's not bullying, then what is it? And still, how are we going to address, you know, how
Absolutely.
people are, their experience?
Absolutely, and we have that, we have the forms, and then, you know, when it's investigated, we meet, talk about the determination, and then a plan moving forward, whether it is or is not, what that looks like, how are we going to help navigate the situation with the students involved, and the whole environment. So yeah, it's a step-by-step process.
The Indiana code says there's 2 things that have to be evident. And it's, the first is an imbalance of power. That imbalance of power can come in many terms, if it's 2 or 3 or 4 against the law, or if it's an older kid and a younger kid, or if it's, you know, a special needs kid. And so the imbalance of power has to exist, and it has to be repeated over time. It can't be a, you know, one time, or, you know, and that happens with an investigation. But whenever it's reported by law, an investigation has to happen, and they're looking for those 2 things. If it's repeated over time, and an imbalance of power.
But just because it's not found to be bullying doesn't mean that we don't
Yeah,
take those extra steps, because we do, we put a big plan in place, because obviously there's an issue. It may not be necessarily defined as bullying, but they're having problems, they're having conflict, so
Right.
we do put something in place.
because the big thing, if it is identified as bullying, then the disciplinary actions escalate extremely quick. I mean, it just goes from, you know, warning to suspension to, you know, it escalates really quick.
any other questions?
We won't make the 16th meeting. We'll send you a report by email.
Will you have, like tables and?
Yeah.
stuff? Okay. Any recognition?
I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone involved in the musical. It was, I know it takes an entire village, from a first year teacher to parents towing their kids around, to teachers putting up with crabby kids the next day after tech week, to all the little kids that did it. It was awesome, and we put up the best musical, I'd say, in the freaking state, I would say, and it's like, I think it's the best, so.
You know what amazes me year after year as I go and I see all these kids running the hallways, and they're out at recess, in the lunchroom, they're just different, like, it's their time to shine.
Yeah.
And their personalities and their talents, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me.
Shout out to all.
Yes. I want to shout out the school board for picking up my slack while I recovered from having a baby. So, should see me around more now that that was somewhat normal. And I'm sleeping better.
Better. All right, meeting adjourned at 6:39.
We just realized we don't have the payables circulated. I'll have to send both of those, okay?